I want you to understand something today. No matter how far you think you've gone, God still loves you. Some of you are running through life as fast as you can, trying to escape pain, disappointment, fear, or even your past. You may smile in front of people, but deep inside your heart feels tired and empty. I know that feeling because I lived with those emotions for many years. When I was younger, I kept asking God why I was born without arms and legs. I wanted answers. I wanted God to explain everything before I trusted Him. But over time, I realized that faith is not about understanding every detail. Faith is trusting God even when life does not make sense. So many people spend their entire lives looking for hope in the wrong places. Some look for it in money, others in relationships, fame, success, or temporary pleasures. But none of those things can truly heal a broken heart. Real hope only comes from knowing that God created you for a purpose. You are not an accident. Your pain is not meaningless. Your struggles do not define your value. The greatest miracle in my life was not getting arms and legs. The greatest miracle was that God healed my heart. He gave me peace when I felt hopeless. He gave me strength when I wanted to quit. Even when I could not see His full plan, His presence was always there beside me. Tonight, don't harden your heart when God is calling you. He sees your tears, your fears, and your hidden battles. Open your heart to Him because your story is not over. God still has a beautiful purpose for your life. There was a time in my life when I truly believed I had no future. I looked at myself and only saw weakness. I compared myself to everyone around me and wondered why I was different. As a child, being bullied and rejected made me feel completely alone. I remember going home from school carrying pain in my heart that nobody could fully understand. I questioned my value every single day. I wondered if anyone would ever accept me, love me, or even understand me. At one point, the sadness became so heavy that I thought about ending my life because I believed the world would be better without me. But God slowly began changing the way I saw myself. He showed me that my brokenness did not make me worthless. In fact, the very things I hated about myself could become part of a greater purpose. Sometimes we think our pain disqualifies us from being used by God, but often our pain becomes the reason we can help others heal. The scars you carry today may become the testimony that saves someone tomorrow. I remember meeting a little boy who had no arms and no legs just like me. When I looked into his eyes, I saw the same fears and questions I once carried inside my own heart. In that moment, I realized something powerful. Even if I never received the miracle I once prayed for, I could still become a miracle for someone else. My life could give hope to people who felt hopeless. That is what God does. He takes broken pieces and creates something beautiful out of them. Your struggles are not the end of your story. The pain you survived may become the very thing that helps another person keep going. Never believe the lie that you are useless because God can use your life in ways you cannot even imagine yet. I have traveled to many places around the world, and I have seen people living in deep pain, fear, and hopelessness. One moment that changed my life happened when I visited the red light district in India. It was a place filled with darkness, brokenness, and suffering. Young girls were trapped in slavery, families were destroyed, and many people believed there was no way out. While we were there sharing the message of God's love, I met an elderly woman who had not walked for several years. She looked weak and exhausted, and her family believed she was close to death. One of her relatives challenged us and said, "If your God is real, then show us." At that moment, I felt nervous because only God can perform miracles. We prayed for the woman, and at first nothing happened. She tried to move but could not stand. So we prayed again with faith, believing that God was still able to work even when we could not immediately see the result. Suddenly, she stood up by herself and began walking. Everyone around us was shocked. Some people cried while others simply stared in disbelief. But the greatest part of that story was not only the physical healing. The real miracle was discovering who this woman had been. She had spent years helping run the system that trapped and destroyed the lives of many young girls. Yet even after all the wrong she had done, God still pursued her with love and mercy. That moment taught me something I will never forget. No one is too far from God's grace. Many people believe they are too broken, too sinful, or too lost to be forgiven. But as long as you are breathing, God's mercy is still available to you. He is not waiting to reject you. He is waiting for you to come home and let him transform your life. When I was born without arms and legs, many people believed my life would always be limited. Doctors told my parents that I would never live a normal life and that I would probably depend on others for everything. My parents were afraid for my future because they could not imagine what kind of life I would have. Even I struggled with fear and doubt as I grew older. I wondered if I would ever have a career, get married, or experience happiness like everyone else. There were moments when I felt trapped by my circumstances and unable to see any purpose in my pain. But God had a bigger plan for my life than anyone could imagine. Over time, I learned that purpose is not based on what you have or what you lack. Purpose comes from the one who created you. When I stopped focusing only on what was missing and started trusting God, my entire life began to change. I discovered abilities I never thought possible. I learned how to type on a computer, swim, travel, and speak in front of large crowds. What once looked impossible slowly became possible through faith, perseverance, and God's strength. I also realized that many people spend their lives waiting for perfect conditions before moving forward. They wait until fear disappears, until life becomes easier, or until every question is answered. But faith does not work that way. Faith means trusting God even when you cannot fully see the future. Sometimes God allows difficult seasons because He is preparing you for something greater than you can currently understand. Every person has a purpose. Your life matters more than you realize. There are people who need your kindness, your encouragement, and your story. The struggles you face today may become the foundation of someone else's hope tomorrow. God can take broken dreams, painful experiences, and impossible situations and turn them into something meaningful. When you surrender your plans to Him, He can do more with your life than you ever thought possible. The world constantly tells us that happiness can be found in success, money, relationships, or fame. People spend years chasing things they believe will finally satisfy them, only to discover that their hearts still feel empty. I have met people with great wealth who were deeply unhappy, and I have met people going through incredible struggles who still carried peace and joy inside them. The difference is not found in circumstances. The difference is where their hope comes from. For a long time, I believed that if God gave me arms and legs, then I would finally be happy. I thought my physical condition was the biggest problem in my life. But as I grew older, I realized that the greatest need of every human heart is not physical healing. The greatest need is spiritual healing. A person can look strong on the outside while feeling completely broken inside. Only God can truly heal the human heart. Life will never be free from pain. Every one of us will face disappointment, loss, fear, and moments where we do not understand what God is doing. There are days when you may feel weak and discouraged. There are times when your prayers may seem unanswered. But even in those moments, God is still with you. His love does not disappear when life becomes difficult. One thing I have learned is that real hope is not based on feelings or temporary situations. Real hope comes from trusting that God has a purpose even in the middle of suffering. When I cannot walk, God carries me. When I feel lost, He guides me. When I feel broken, He reminds me that my life still has value. No matter what you are facing today, do not give up. Your story is still being written. God can take your pain, your failures, and your broken pieces and turn them into a testimony that inspires others. If you place your life in His hands, He can create something beautiful out of even the darkest moments.